All right, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. You're listening to the Currency of Discourse podcast with myself, Jay, and Quaid. And it's been a while since we've been together, all four of you. And we've just been busy with life, doing things and stuff. And we thought we'd give it another go here. And I think what we're going to talk about today is, Quaid and I, we kind of want to explore just how your state of mind and your mental well-being, and I guess the way that you think about things can, positively impact your life and the way that you live it. And so we're just going to kind of explore that in just a very, kind of like natural way, and just kind of talk about it and see where it goes. So I'm going to turn it over to you, Quaid.
Yeah. I think that was
Let's see where it goes.
A pretty good explanation of what we've been talking about recently. And I think that just something that maybe we've both come to realize through discussions is that a lot of life has to do with emotional regulation, the ability, I guess, to meditate on some level, but and then, like you were saying, the ability to kind of like think of things in a positive way, or to focus on your breath too, I think is another big one. So I would say the idea of learning how to use your consciousness to focus on negative emotions in the moment so that you can engage with the world more readily and more actively. So you're more focused on the external world because you no longer have those negative emotions clouding what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
So you really just want to, if you want to do something to the best of your ability, you really want to kind of look inside yourself often and notice if you feel any negative emotions. And when you do, just focus on them until they go away. And now you are prepared to engage with the outside world again.
Mm. There's two questions I want to ask you, and I can ask them both, and then you can kind of just go down whichever road that you want to go, or we can try to backtrack to the other one. But two of the things that I want to ask you, one that we've kind of talked about off the air a few times is, you've talked about what you kind of think is the purpose of consciousness,
Mm-hmm.
or at least one of the reasons why it's useful for us, or what we can do with consciousness. And then another question I want to ask before it slips my mind is, and that already happened. It already slipped my mind. No, but this idea, you were talking about, help me here.
Well, I can answer the first one real quick.
Okay.
So I wouldn't phrase it so much as the purpose of consciousness. Maybe that's not the best way to put it, instead of actually what your consciousness is best used for.
Okay.
Right? I think that might be a more accurate way to put it. So your consciousness is best used when you focus on when you focus on what...
I remember the other question.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, before it goes again. You talked about looking into your feelings.
Yes.
I think it'd be good to
describe
kind of break that down, what that actually means, because I think people hear phrases like "look into your feelings," and they might think they know what that means, but maybe hearing it explained in a different way from someone else might help, help them think about it a different way. So
yeah. So it is to feel like feel what the sensation. Really notice the inside of your body. So notice what sensations you feel inside your body when you have that emotion. So step one is really to acknowledge the negative emotion. Then step two...
And you're talking about the physical feeling and somewhere in your body, yes, located in your body?
Yes. So ask, where is that negative emotion in my body? What does it feel like if I'm anxious? If I get anxious, where does it feel like in my body? I'm pretty sure right now, if I were to try to accurately describe it, it would be somewhere in my stomach. Mm-hmm. Almost in my lower stomach, maybe a little bit in my back, right? And doing that and feeling that emotion, it's gone now. So now I am prepared to engage back with the outside world and be kind of an effective changer.
And for you, just the act of just recognizing it helps you to to cope with that
Control
feeling?
it. Yes, to keep it down, to keep that down, because it's I'm pretty sure, maybe I can't know this, but I'm pretty sure it's impossible to feel those feelings when you're trying to notice what it feels like to feel those feelings. And that is a key. That is a very neat trick.
What do you think happened if you've struggled, if you've had issues with anxiety before, my assumption is that you've had experiences where you have runaway thoughts or runaway emotions.
Yes.
And so what do you feel like changed between you being able to recognize a physical feeling that's a result of anxiety in your body, recognize it, move on, and be able to actually experience that dissipate?
Yeah.
Versus a time where if you recognize a negative emotion, and when I say negative emotion, we're talking about the physical feeling in your
inside your body, right?
That running away from you and sticking with you, like say for the entire day or something, it's just like attached to you like a tick or something. Where do you think the change occurred?
It wasn't easy. I think it came from a lot of learning and a lot of different practices. Meditation is one great practice, because meditation, that is essentially the central practice, is to notice what's going on, the stimuli in your body as you're feeling emotions and as you're having thoughts. So meditation is just a great thing for this. That, I think, would be one step.
What does your meditation routine look like?
It's actually more of a mantra. And the mantra is just, what do your negative feelings feel like? What do your negative feelings feel like in your body?
Sorry, go ahead.
There's one other thing that I do, and that is to pay attention to my breath.
Mm-hmm.
So I will pay attention to my breath and my negative emotions. And that, again, puts me in a calmer state to kind of do what I have to do. I do acknowledge thoughts. Sometimes you need thoughts. You're never not going to have thoughts, and you're never not going to have negative feelings. So just get that out of your head right now. But that's okay. That's part of life. The point is to not be so anxious and not be so angry. And you do that by really noticing those emotions in your body the second they start to manifest. And then they go away, and you're back in that positive state of mind. You're remembering things better. You're doing things better. You're acting better. And so, again, it's not that you never feel those things. It's that those things are no longer I think what you were saying there, and I think is a good way to describe it, is it's kind of in the background, right? Mm. And you have runaway thoughts, right? That no longer is a thing. Your days aren't being painted by these states of high anxiety throughout the day. So you get at the end of the day and you're just like, man, I was so anxious today. I don't have those days anymore because I'm constantly focusing on my anxiety. So by the end of the day, it's like, man, it wasn't as bad as it was yesterday.
This mantra that you have,
yes.
Is this just a thing that you do throughout the entirety of the day, or there's like a session that you do maybe in the morning or in the evening?
So I try to do it 5 minutes in the day, but I don't always do it. I don't always feel the need to do it, and that's completely fine. Again, this practice is about the easement of it. That's what meditation is for. Meditation is about not feeling bad about what you're doing. It's not about not thinking. That's where people mess up. They try to stop themselves from thinking, right? What you really want to do is try to generate low levels of negative emotion. Okay? So you don't want to stop thinking. You want to, when you have a thought, not attach so much to that thought and treat it like it's so important. It can be, and it can be useful, but we're not sure where thoughts come from. They arise, really seemingly out of nowhere. And so really what we need to be focusing on more so is the inside and the internal and those internal emotions, just to make sure they stay in check. And now I can kind of even have more what I think are fruitful thoughts or more helpful thoughts.
And so you would say, I'm just trying to catch the audience up, you would say that nowadays you are more the thinker of your thoughts than maybe you used to be, or you have more you're more in control of what's going on in your mind?
I have more control of my thoughts. I don't have complete control. I have more control. So yes, I think I don't have as many anxious thoughts. And I think it's because I'm focusing on the emotion before it really manifests into any thoughts. For me to interpret why I'm feeling the way that I feel, to start having negative thoughts, they usually go away for me too quickly for me to start having those thoughts. Mm-hmm. So yes, they go away, and then I guess just throughout the day, they're not around as much anymore. And so overall, my days are better, like progressively better.
Would you say that you're able to accurately recognize and connect a negative thought with a negative physical manifestation of a particular thought, or sometimes you feel like you have a physical manifestation of a negative emotion, but you're not necessarily sure where it comes from?
Yeah, that's a great freaking question, and I think that if I were to say, I would say that I don't know where my emotions really come from. I think this is just intuition at this point. So I don't think maybe we do know where our emotions come from. I think maybe we have an idea of where they come from, right? But it doesn't matter as long as you tell yourself you really do know. You really do know what's going on. And once you know what's going on, you can do one of two things. You can either believe something different or you can act to change the emotion. And either way works. Believing is easier. It's easier if you're in the right mindset to change a belief than it is to do something. But it is sometimes necessary to act over believing. So
you're talking about the perception versus reality.
Yes.
Idea. Do you want to kind of explore that?
Well, first I want to say that, so let's say I get angry, right? Yeah. I have the emotion of anger, right? And I don't really know why, but I think that it's because I don't know, my girlfriend didn't do something I wanted her to do. Okay, so let's say she didn't pay for tickets to go to a movie that I wanted her to pay for. Okay, that I thought she was going to pay for. All right, so I have that feeling,
and
right?
She must be punished for that.
Yes. No. So I start to feel it, right? I start to feel it in my body, and it never even rises up to conscious level, really. So I stop immediately being angry about whatever it is. But let's say I catch myself in the thought. And the thought is probably something like, how could she do this? And, if I were in this situation, I wouldn't do this, right? These are conjuring negative emotions, these thoughts. So what I can change it instead into was, I forget things all the time. I do things incorrectly all the time. Maybe I can recall a time where I did something incorrectly. And even though she forgot the movie, maybe there's a positive to this. Maybe the seat, now I notice that all the seats that I really wanted were taken up. Now I can get into a movie and have the seats that I actually want, right? So you start to paint everything in this veneer of positivity because the emotions are now not painting those thoughts anymore.
You're kind of reframing what's...
Yes.
Like how you originally might have viewed a thing.
Yes. And that keeps me in a positive state of mind. So it's just like my life is now exponentially better. You know what I mean? Like it's just, there's no, it makes sense to do this thing, I guess is kind of my point.
And do you feel like that took practice for you?
I actually don't think it should take, it seems to have taken people a while. Like I've talked to quite a few people about this. I've talked to you, I've talked to my girlfriend, I've talked to my brother and my mom. And there does seem to be some difficulty in doing it, but I do think you get to a point where progressively your days get exponentially better. And so if you're in that spot where you're like, my days are getting better, then you're probably doing it better. You're learning to do it better. And I think that would be the main distinction is that you notice that your days are getting better when you do it. I
guess I'm just thinking about someone who might be more impulsive than you are, which means that they're going to be more no, I want to say victim to their own thoughts, or there's maybe more of a struggle there in relation to their willpower in not acting on a thought or a feeling.
Yes.
But I'm just wondering if the way that you go about doing things will still work for someone who is impulsive or who's easily caught up in their thoughts more so than you might be.
Yeah. I think that I think that an important component to the process is, again, keeping in mind that it's easier to change a belief sometimes than an action. And you should really change the belief when your action will result in a larger amount of people basically not being able to manage their own emotions, disrupting their negative emotions so that they have now negative emotions to deal with. So you really want to try to act in a way where it dissipates the emotion. So, and again, oftentimes it helps to just believe. So for instance, I can get mad at my girlfriend in the previous scenario, right? And I can get frustrated with her and maybe elevate my voice, right? And I can engage that way. That is now I've now probably most likely disrupted her emotions, right? As opposed to changing the belief, oh, people think differently, people act differently, I make mistakes all the time, right? Believing these things, oh, I don't have that emotion now, right? I still want to do an action, right? But the action I'm going to do now is say like, hey, the next time that we like decide to go to a movie, I'll remind you beforehand, and now I've just solved the scenario without really, the other way was going to go down a path that was not going to solve really deeper issues. It was the other one. So changing a belief oftentimes can do it better. That doesn't mean you don't act. Again, I can think of a scenario where I have a really evil person in front of me, and I just know if I don't end their life right there, they will get out and harm a bunch of people, right? It's not going to help in that moment to change my belief, oh, they're really good people, or they just had a rough life, right? I really need to solve that emotion in that moment through a more difficult means, which is the action. You know what I mean? So it's not that you always act, all right? It's that you act when you've really thought about what is going to help people and remove negative emotions, as many negative emotions from a scenario as possible. Not that you can do it 100%, I don't think.
Do you feel like this line of thinking or I guess approach to thoughts and emotions is both applicable to your own inner world as much as it is the external world then?
What do you mean?
Like, is the point of you getting control of your thoughts and your emotions more for yourself and your inner peace, or is it more for how you operate in the external world and how it impacts others?
It's both. It's absolutely both. Yeah, there's definitely like an equilibrium to the process where it's like I'm improving and I'm watching people around me improve, and I'm also imagining a future where if I continue to live, people around me will continue to improve, and that I'll have a increasingly positive impact on the world. And that kind of like fuels again the positive feelings that I constantly have. So all those things are really coming back at that point when you reconcile it that way.
I suppose if I was listening to this, I would want to hear from you, just paint me a picture of how you've developed this line of thinking. Like, what are you doing in a moment when you feel a physical manifestation of emotion? Like, how does that, like, play that scenario out for someone who might not know what we're talking about?
Yeah. So I always return to the right now. I'm doing it literally.
Okay. So what's happening?
So just right now, I'm checking inside me, and I'm going, where do I feel where I usually would notice a negative emotion? Am I angry? I'm not angry right now. Am I anxious? I'm not anxious right now. Am I bored? I'm not bored right now, because I'm trying to look for those things, and so they're not coming up. Does that make sense?
So you're searching for a sensation in your body somewhere, and you're not feeling anything out of the ordinary.
No. Like right now, I feel something in my lower stomach. Okay. And
lunch, probably.
Yeah, could be, right? Yeah. I'm thinking of a line from a book, but forget it.
What's the book?
It's Charles Dickens, right? What is it? What's the Christmas book?
Man, I don't know.
The Christmas book by Charles Dickens?
No, you're asking
people
the wrong
like,
guy.
This guy's dumb. I'm done.
I am.
I'm turning. It's no, I'm talking to him. I was saying they're referring to me. It is
good reframing again.
The one with Scrooge. You remember with Scrooge?
Yeah, it was the one with the guy from Star Trek.
Yes. Well, there's there's a line in that book. There's a line. What is it? It's 12 Days of Christmas? It doesn't matter. There's a line in there where he goes, he sees a ghost and he says, like, you might just be a bit of undigested beef, So that's the idea, is that when things are going wacky, it's probably not the actual thing. It's a physical thing that you don't understand.
It's funny you brought that up, right? Because someone like, let's say someone who's so entrenched in anxiety or depression that they get so used to feelings that actually are abnormal or shouldn't be constant, that it probably becomes difficult for them to differentiate between something that should be easy to differentiate for maybe a normal, like not a normal person, but someone who doesn't struggle with anxiety all the time. So it might be difficult for certain people to actually identify what's going on. Like, is this a normal feeling or is this an abnormal? They don't know anymore.
So and what I would do for that, actually, I have a suggestion for that. That would be to get a piece of paper and write down a list of what you would identify as negative emotions. And as you feel those emotions, see if you can really notice.
We're talking about physical feelings in the body.
Physical feeling. Yes. So when you have anger, go get a piece of paper and write down angry, and then remember what that feeling feels like. Yes. And then when you feel boredom, or what you could do, actually, this is how I would do it. I would create a list of negative emotions first, and then I would check them off as you feel them.
Well, they can. So people, in terms of emotional states, you can actually look up. I think it's called an emotion wheel. Feelings wheel or something, because there's primary emotions and there's secondary emotions. And so when you kind of have that wheel in front of you, a lot of like therapeutic places use these, for students and like school age people. Because it helps them to kind of really pinpoint what they're feeling, because there's angry, but then there's other aspects to, say, angry or happy or content. It's more complex than just those words. And so someone could pull up one of those emotion wheels on like Google or whatever, print out, and then do the exercise that you're talking about, but they have more of a vocabulary of feelings and emotions.
That's true too. I think vocabulary is pivotal in this, so that's a good point there,
because it's hard to articulate sometimes through language. I mean, you're a language guy. It's hard to articulate sometimes through language what we feel or what we're thinking feeling. Like, there's not a way of putting that thing into words. And so that can kind of help you a little bit, as much as it can.
So you really want you want to find some negative emotions list, or you can add to it and take away from it.
Well, there's both positive and negative.
Yes, there is. I would just focus on, maybe you do want to focus on the positive on some level, but having the anxiety go away and having better days really comes from noticing the negative.
Yeah, but so my argument there would be, someone who doesn't often have good days. Yeah. It would be important for them to recognize moments when they are having a good moment. So let's say, someone who likes nature goes for a walk in the park.
For sure. I get what you're saying.
And they see, I don't know, they see a flower that they like and it makes them feel like warm around their heart or something. They should take a moment to notice that. And write that down if that's what we're talking about, like taking note of emotions, physical manifestations of emotions in our body. I think it's critical that they do that on the good days. That way they can recognize it again in the future. Because again, if they're operating in high states of both positive and negative emotion, it might be difficult for them to differentiate between what they're really feeling.
They won't notice the positive, right? And I think we were talking about before that, like, what you might want to actually do is kind of like oscillate back and forth. So when you're having a good moment, you want to perpetuate that moment. So focus what's going internally, then take the focus off the internal so it will continue and go back to whatever's making you happy, and try to switch between those and see if you can get it to like build up. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I suppose. In the moment, what I'm thinking about right now is I'm just imagining like a psychologist or a therapist listening to us and, probably wanting to like tear us apart or something for
who knows? But it depends. It depends on what kind of therapy, like it could also be the therapist that's just like, well, if you think that, does having that thought give you comfort, right? Isn't that what it's all about? Isn't that what they're trying to do? Like, they're trying to get you to deal with tough emotions, but they have you do that by really getting you to acknowledge what's going on inside you and feeling it. Yeah. And trying to explore why it's happening so you can alleviate it. So I don't think we're too far off here. But in terms of the negative emotions list, I would also say, or I would like to, what emotions do you consider negative if you had to list any? And then I'll see if I can add to it.
Negative emotions?
Yes. Emotions that you're just like, I really don't want to be there. Like, for me, I don't ever really...
Guilt. I would say is
Guilt.
negative emotion.
Okay. I wouldn't.
Or shame.
Shame would be another one. Guilt or shame. Do you ever like? I never want to be angry. I don't want to be angry. Things make me angry. I don't want to be angry. I do want to be sad though. I thought about that. It should come back. I thought about being sad though, or I don't know if I wouldn't want to not be sad. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I would. I don't know if sadness is a negative emotion because it might be an expression of love.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I don't know. I'm trying to look up the emotion wheel.
Okay.
Right now. Okay, so there could be like on a spectrum, like you could start at sorrow.
Okay.
Embarrassment.
Yeah, I don't know if I want to feel sorrow.
Fatigue.
I don't want to feel embarrassed. I don't want to feel fatigued. I don't want to feel, what was the other one?
Depression.
Depression. Yeah, I don't want to feel depressed.
And in another like category of the pie, there might be dread. Or dismay.
Nope.
Fear.
Oh, I think I want to feel a little bit of fear.
Hesitation. Hesitation might keep you alive.
Yeah.
Might get you killed as well.
Hesitation too.
But like on the positive spectrum, you might have like serenity or worth, contentment, security, joy, pride, confidence, energy, positive energy. Yeah.
Yeah. So, when you hear those negative words, write down and make your own list, and then just check off every time you feel those feelings. And if you want, make multiple checks, and see if you can limit the amount of time in between those checks, I guess is the practice. Just see if you can limit it by noticing it.
Yeah.
And then I think just by logic, right? You're not feeling it as much necessarily. You're just not noticing, but either way, right? At least your conscious experience seems to be.
Yeah. So like this particular wheel, like inside of like the word, like I'm mad. Okay. But how are you mad? So inside of this particular wheel, like inside being mad, there's hurt, there's hostile, there's angry, there's selfish, there's hateful, there's critical. So there's these other aspects of just being. It helps you to really pinpoint what exactly, because mad, it could be too broad for what you're feeling.
Yeah.
What inside of that.
Yeah. Well, I don't like any of those feelings except for maybe critical. I like critical feeling. Yeah, I like when I critique myself.
Oh, you're talking about emotions that you would want to keep as a way of like something that you might need.
Yes.
In terms of expression, but others you wish you could just almost eliminate.
Yeah, so some emotions might be what we like archaic. They might be archaic. We don't need them anymore. We developed them at a time when the environment was very different from us. The environment was very different for us. The environment was very different, right? And we developed fear and anger and scenarios where things were really.
What if we return to that though?
Day to day was like. Then you might need those emotions, but even in that moment, you still want to cut it down as much as possible because you really want to be able to focus. And those negative emotions don't get you to focus. They are just indicative of something. They indicate something. So they're informative. So you want to feel them, right? But you really don't want to perpetuate that feeling because you want to be able to act on what's in front of you based off of that emotion. So we might need them, but even then, really the practice is to put yourself in more extreme scenarios in which you can manage your negative emotions, because then if you ever end up there, you will be able to. When you talk about a guy
So I should buy that plane ticket to Afghanistan.
It's potential.
No.
Okay, I'm glad you're not serious, Jay. Okay, so like David Goggins, right?
Yeah.
Like that guy just jumps into a cold river, right? And you ask, how does he do that? I bet you I could do it. I bet you I could do it right now. And how I would do it would be I would start to focus on my negative emotions as I'm doing it, so it's not as unpleasant of an experience. So that the next time I need to. Yeah, I know. We've all done it, right?
Yeah.
And then we were able to do it on some level too. We have that friend that would just jump in if you were just like, do it right now, and they'd do it, right?
Without question.
And that's their ability to control their emotions in that scenario. That really is what it is. They have an instinct in there. I don't think I don't think any of them necessarily know how to do it.
So some people like our friend that we're talking about, I would say that that's more innate in them, more natural. But other people have to cultivate that. And I think David Goggins is the one that he had to cultivate it, because at one point he described himself as like a lazy, like nobody basically, and he had to like force himself into that state of mind.
Yep.
And he's constantly, what's impressive about him is he is always impressing on others that like there's nothing special about me. I just tried to like utilize my willpower to develop myself.
Yes. And that's the other thing too, is you notice when you're doing this, when you're focusing on your negative emotions, your willpower is a lot stronger now. You're more willing to do and cope with things because you know it's not going to be painted by negative emotions. At the very least, anything I go through, at the very least, at least I won't have the extra burden of so much negative emotion, and then it becomes easier.
Yeah. So we kind of had a contention about this when we talked. You're saying focus on negative emotions. Yes. So you're saying focus on the physical manifestation of a feeling in your body. And when I heard you say focus, I thought you meant like give it devoted attention, like extended amount of time to think about this thing. And you like clarify, you mean more just like recognize it.
Yes.
Acknowledge it intentionally and then move on.
Yes, I apologize for that. Yeah, that you do really want to focus on the physical sensation of those emotions. That's what I mean by focus. Focus on the physical sensation of those emotions, not those emotions, not the thoughts that perpetuate those emotions, just the sensation that you feel inside your body when those emotions arise. Mm-hmm. And that's it. That's really what you want to do. And then that's going to reveal that it's actually hard to continue to feel those things.
For you, if a emotion rises, or a physical manifestation of a feeling in your body arises that is negative, and you need to spend time on it, do you do that?
Yeah, but I don't. I do need to spend a little bit of time on it, but it's happening progressively quicker. Mm-hmm. Like more and more I find myself not actually having to spend that much time dealing with it, because feeling it really does take care of it. So I mean, that's the thing, and you want yourself to be caught off guard. You want things, you still, again, on some level want to feel those feelings, and it's okay. This is a great universe to live in because they will continue to happen. So that is great. That is a great thing, that you will probably at some point still feel fear, still feel anger. You just won't feel them for as long, because if you didn't have those things, you might not be here anymore. So, and that might be a bad thing, right? If you're not on this plane of existence anymore. So it's a blessing, if you want to call it that, when you feel those feelings, or, when something interacts with you in a way that kind of like throws you off a little bit, because that means you're here, right? And you're not just in flow state, and you're not really just disconnected from everything, you're connected. So, but yeah, I mean, that really is just the practice to feel the physical sensation in your body. And then you're just way happier for much longer. I can fast anytime I want. So I'm fasting, I work out, like I do all the things that I need to do in life now. And I can do anything that I need to do. And it's just because I'm prepared to, if I know the second I know I need to do it, I just deal with those negative emotions around it and feeling the sensation in my body, and now I can do it. And
what is your plan? What is your plan if you stay stuck in that negative emotion for a little bit longer than normal? How are you going to deal with that? Just the same way that you deal with it now?
Yes, remember to feel the bodily. That's what makes it so great. It's such a simple concept. Like, and you don't get too many of that, in this universe. It sounds like it could be like a pyramid scheme or something, right? Or like some type of like. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And so when you think, I'm driving it, trying to get you to like paint a picture. So when you feel a feeling like somewhere in your body, let's say you're feeling anxiety, okay?
Yes.
Like in your like side.
Yes.
You're on your left side, you feel like some like, I don't know, like a
pressure. Yeah.
When you're recognizing that feeling in your mind,
yes.
Okay? Are you intentionally describing to yourself what that feeling is? Like, are you saying to yourself,
No.
okay, I feel a pressure in my side, and now you're saying to yourself through your thoughts that you're releasing that feeling, or is it more automatic to you?
It's more automatic, and that's why I said focus. That's why I kept using the word focus, because when I imagine it, I just focus on the sensations of the feeling.
Okay.
And it doesn't need to
So
go
instead
up
of
to the
attempting
cognitive.
to describe it,
Yep. You don't even
You're
need to
just
do that. You just feel
noticing.
it. Yep. You're just noticing it and it goes away. So it doesn't even hit the cognitive process much.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah. So no, you don't need you just focus on the physical sensations. You stop having it, and now you're prepared.
Do you feel like the physical manifestation is like a warning sign to you about
something that's going on?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But I mean, is it precipitating? That's not the right word. I wish I did know words better.
You always can, man.
Is the physical manifestation happening before a negative thought arises in your mind, or is a negative thought arising in your mind consciously and causing the physical manifestation of a negative emotion?
No, yeah, I think we talked about this before, but it's not hitting. It's the physical manifestation first. I can't know for sure. Whether or not I'm having any thoughts, but I am aware of the
subconscious.
Right. I'm aware of the feeling before I'm aware of the thought. And I think that there is an intuition about that too. Again, this might be just a little bit of a stretch, but it doesn't really matter. In terms of evolution, we evolved the feeling aspects of our brain first. We evolved those stimulus parts of our brain, those reactionary parts of our brain first.
Or our body's making automatic decisions so that we're not doing it.
Right. When you touch a hot stove, there's a feeling of moving it back like automatically.
Yeah, your body's just like, nope, we're not gonna do that.
Yes, and as your hand gets, so some animals have learned they don't even have to touch the stove.
Yeah.
Some animals have learned to feel fear even if they get close to the stove.
Yeah.
Right? And so, again, it's those feelings. It's the feeling that does that. They don't have to have the prefrontal cortex with language and thinking in the way that we think of thinking.
And then there's domesticated dogs that run out in front of traffic because we bred that out of them.
Yeah, exactly, right? And then we have a whole field of, if we decide to stop eating meat, we have this animal that we just created that doesn't know how to survive outside of those conditions that we created for them. So, perfect.
So that's what happens when you remove the emotions that you want to get rid of. No one knows how to survive in the wild.
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah, so again,
we need them in our back pocket.
Yes, you do.
But you don't want them at the forefront all the time. You don't want to feel like you're living. We shouldn't be walking in the safe suburbs and feeling like we're in the middle of the jungle.
Right. Yes, exactly.
That's not what you want.
Exactly. I heard a Buddhist who described it very well, and the idea was kind of just like, when anger arises, you say, "Come, friend." Like, that's the way he views it, is that like you're not afraid of the anger. You're happy when it's there because I'm in reality and now I can do something about it. So that is actually, that idea of, come anxiety. And then you want the anxiety to come and then it doesn't come. And it's the funniest thing. It's the neatest little trick. It really is. So, I mean, that's the thought. That's as well as I feel like I can express it. And it's worked for me. So that's all I can really say. I'm obviously not asking for any money over this. So this is just something that I wanted to express that I think really works. And I hope it does work for people. And, I want people to be happier. So anything that I could do to help, I wanted to say something. And then talking with you and people, it's been great, and it's been a development, and I can't wait to see what it does in other people's lives now, I think, is the idea. I want to see how people around me change.
Are you going to try and teach that to others?
Yes. Yeah, I mean, I'm going to teach it in class. I already have started to teach some of it in class, and I'm already noticing a big difference.
What are you teaching them?
English, but it's an argumentation class, so it's perfect because that is the perfect time to be able to regulate your emotions when you're arguing with people. So we're really nailing early in the semester, how do you manage your emotions as you're getting into very heated conversations, or getting into topics where the other person might be heated. How do you really manage your own emotions and on some level the other person's emotions? Because you're going to be better at dealing with what they have when you're dealing with your own emotions. So absolutely, that's the purpose.
Gotcha. Is there anything else that you kind of wanted to? Is
No,
there any
man,
other
I mean,
direction that you want to take this?
I mean, I got that off my chest. We have the game coming up. I can't wait for that. We're
You
going
want to talk
to
about that a little bit?
Yeah. I made a game, and I'm gonna come out with all the details here soon. But you're gonna hear me and hopefully Jay and some other people play this game. We'll put stuff online so that you can see what's going on as we're doing it. But it's a reasoning game, so it will help you. As far as as in my understanding, like the research that I've done, I feel like I've done a lot of research about reasoning and critical thinking, and so I really tried to develop something around those ideas to help people do it as far as I understand it into the capacity of my reading. So, and the idea of all this really is to learn how to persuade people, and that's what the game is supposed to do. It's supposed to put us in scenarios where we will be more likely to persuade people, hopefully to have better, more helpful ideas, and improve humanity overall. So, that's the purpose behind it.
Cool.
All right.
Anything else?
I think that's good, Jay. Or
All right.
I think that's good, man.
I said my name at the beginning.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah.
So the cat's out of the bag now. Okay.
The cat's
great.
been out of the bag.
Okay.
30 seconds into our first episode, he
Yeah.
busted me out. No,
Oh, I'm sorry.
that's good. All right. Well, thanks for taking the time to listen to us. Sorry it's been so long.
It will be more regular from now on.
Yeah, hopefully. All right. You've been listening to the Currency of Discourse, and hope you all have a good night. Take care.
Have a good night.